It has now been 3 months since that mid-air plane crash between a passenger plane and a military helicopter over the Potomac in Washington, D.C. 67 people died, including members of the U.S. figure skating team.
One day after the crash, a conservative influencer from Littleton blamed that crash on a transgender military pilot. Pilot Jo Ellis told NBC News she served more than 15 years in the Virginia Army National Guard. She has now filed a defamation lawsuit against influencer Matt Wallace. According to the suit, he shared a post to his more than 2 million Twitter followers linking Ellis to the crash.
So we want to talk about it today with our legal expert, Whitney Traylor. And Whitney, I guess some of this comes into definitions, legal definitions,
Yes.
Things like libel, slander, defamation. I imagine they all fall into different categories from a legal standpoint.
Yes, actually, libel and slander are forms of defamation. Slander is spoken, libel is written. But defamation, and here I read the complaint this morning, there's 4 elements to defamation. The first one is a defamatory statement, which is one that's likely to harm your reputation. Here, that clearly was satisfied here. It has to be communicated to a third party, went out to millions of people. Has to be false. And here it was clearly false because everyone died, unfortunately, in that tragedy. And then finally, the damages. And here, and that's really where the defamation claims have problems, is with respect to the damages. Because a lot of times it can just be reputational harm or things like that. It's not always monetary damages. But here, I think there's actual significant damages, both economic and non-economic.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody was any piece of information after that was coming out, and it was a critical time, and people were grieving and everything else. But she had to post something as proof of life, too.
Yes.
Because she had people thinking she was dead.
Right. She had people thinking she was dead, and then, of course, she was getting a lot of hate, and she was trending. I guess when she woke up, her name had been mentioned 90,000 times, and and I read the complaint, and they cited a number of these things, and the vitriol towards for her as a trans woman was really egregious. And so that actually speaks to the damages, because here you can have economic damages. She had to hire a private security team for her and her family. I think there were some medical issues as well. But then you have the non-economic damages, the emotional distress. I mean, this is significant. When you go from a private citizen to suddenly being thrust into the public with the level of hate, it was, I think that's real damages there.
So what about the First Amendment aspect of saying whatever you'd like in our country? Obviously, the old, you can't yell fire in a theater, things like that.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting because all of our amendments have exceptions. There's no absolute rule. So while we have a First Amendment right, the courts have been very clear that you can't cause injury to others. So fighting words, likely to incite lawlessness, things like that. And here, this is a private claim of defamation, and one of the elements of defamation is that it has to be false. And here it was clearly false because she's still alive. She wasn't there at the time. This wasn't her. So so that's going to increase her damages. And even though we have a First Amendment right, we can't, that's not absolute. In this one, there is a defense to defamation, for example, if it's true, for one, and this wasn't, and then if it's opinion. So that's why a lot of times you hear folks saying, this is my opinion.
You can always say, you say what you want, but there are consequences.
Yes,
to what
exactly.
You say, or there can be consequences.
Right, and this private cause of action she has against this influencer, I mean, she's only filed the complaint, so we're early on, but I think based on the facts as I've seen them, she has a strong case.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what he says. I mean, I'm sure he's going to say, I didn't know, I was wrong, but that has been shared multiple times, and I even heard it just days ago.
Yeah, and he did try and backtrack, and you can see the complaint. Yeah, he tried to say, I got this from another source and deflect and everything else, but you can't unring this bell.
Well, we'll talk about it and we'll follow it through as always. Whitney Traylor, it's good to see you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.